Hi everyone, Erica of Confident Parenting, answering your sleep and potty training questions. This mama wants to know, how do I wean my 6-month-old off of overnight comfort feedings without crying or screaming? Okay, so this is probably a popular question and hopefully everybody can benefit from the answer. It's a really common challenge that parents come to me with. So the first thing I would start with is that you definitely can. Obviously, start with your pediatrician. Make sure that you have the go-ahead for your child's age, weight, health, all of that to totally wean night feeds. It sounds like that's what you want to do. It also sounds like you're convinced, Mama, that these feeds are for comfort. So I assume that baby's eating well during the day and that this is just like a quick nibble to get back to sleep. It's not really nutritive. So I would say not all 6-month-olds are ready to go all night without eating, but it sounds like yours is and you feel so too. So, also in the way that you phrased your question, how can I do this without crying or screaming? That suggests to me that maybe you've already dabbled in doing this and it has resulted quickly in some crying and also some screaming. So I'm going to give you some thoughts on how to make that easier, but I always tell parents, whether we're working on sleep or potty, the child you have is the child that you're going to be making these changes with, walking through this process with. So if you know, for example, that your child has levels of upset, levels of crying, and can cry, gently, mildly if something's not a big deal, and only freaks out if something is a big deal, good for you. You're going to have an easier time making these changes and getting through it. But for this mama, it sounds like maybe you have what I call the fire alarm children baby. And these babies don't have levels. If they're not happy about something, they jump straight to the top reaction and they cry as if they are on fire, when in fact they just don't like what's happening in the moment. And I don't say that to be funny or to make light of it. It's just, it is what it is. And it's something that you have to keep in mind anytime you're trying to make changes with baby, that their level of upset doesn't necessarily correlate to what's actually happening in the moment. It's just the level of upset that they reach no matter what. So I would say that for your baby, there may not be a way to make these changes without crying or screaming, but let's talk about some avenues that you could explore just to kind of prove that, find that out for yourself and give it a shot. The bottom line is your baby knows what he or she wants when she wakes, let's just say she to make it easier, when she wakes up in the middle of the night. And she also knows, what normally would happen when she wakes up in the middle of the night. So there's 6 months of habit, 6 months of expectation, basically baby's whole life. And we are going to go down a path of saying, hey, baby, when you wake up overnight, here's what's not going to happen, but here's what can happen instead. And mom, it's really up to you to decide what the instead is. Obviously, if you were to just not go in and not respond, there would be crying and screaming. And I'm sure if you wanted to do that, you wouldn't have reached out to me. You would have just done it. So that's an option, but let's forget about that option. Parents can just not go in, just ignore. I would only do that with a baby who is really skilled at going to sleep initially at the beginning of the night. I wouldn't ask a baby who has no independent skills or expect them to put themselves back to sleep in the middle of the night. And that's actually something that I skipped over. If your baby nurses to sleep, nurses at the last step of the bedtime routine, that's the first piece I would look at. You want to create separation between the two things. Make sure that you're feeding, baby's still awake. Then you walk through other elements in the routine, diaper, sleep sack, jammies, book, song, whatever you want them to be, and we go awake into our crib. If baby's reliant on nursing or the bottle to get to sleep at the beginning of the night, it's going to be much harder to get rid of overnight feeds, even if they are just comfort feeds, because a pattern exists in your baby's mind. Eat, sleep, and they want to repeat it all night long. So actually the easiest thing you can do in preparation for ditching the night feeds is actually leave them in place and work on creating that separation at bedtime if you don't have that separation already. So let's think of a ladder of potential things that you could do in the middle of the night. Right now you're at the top of the ladder with baby. Every time he or she wakes up, you feed to get back to sleep. Where you want to be is on the ground. You want your baby to wake up overnight, which we all do, and just handle it. Roll into the next sleep cycle, doesn't need you for anything. There are a lot of rungs in between. So you can think of coming down the ladder slowly and gradually if your goal is to be gentle and to minimize drama. However, realize from your baby's point of view, The only rung that he or she wants is that top one, nursing. So even if you go just one rung down and say, for example, all right, when you wake up, we're not going to nurse back to sleep, but we are going to rock back to sleep. I will pick you up. I will rock you in my arms. That is beautiful. Crying in arms, even if there might still be some crying, to be fair, it's just her way of communicating, this isn't what I like and this isn't what I expected. And I know there's a better way, and she's right. But crying in arms might feel different to you than crying in the crib or crying alone. But there may still be crying, and that's the bottom line here, is any rung lower than the one rung that she's accustomed to and wants may bring on some level of upset just at first, just until she realizes that old thing is no longer an option. Therefore, the new option is not that bad. It's not the lesser of two options. It's just the only option now. But it will take at least a few nights. I would give it 4 straight nights before you kind of reevaluate to see, is this something she can catch on to, or he, and is it getting us anywhere? So I would say your options are anything from rock back to sleep, see if the wake ups just drop off. If not, you then have to move one more rung down to get out of the habit of rocking. And that might look like, now I'm not going to pick you up, but I will sit next to the crib or lay next to the crib and I will help you. I will rub your back or belly. I will pat the mattress. I will sing you a song. I will talk to you. I will hold your hand. You're still helping back to sleep with support. You're just trading down the level of support that your baby's relying on and still trying to reach the same goal of, you wake up, you handle it on your own. You don't need or want anything from me. If that were to work, sitting next to the crib, let's say you've worked your way down to that, you're patting, you're shushing, you're doing all of that, then you want to start doing less touch on the way to no touch. You're just sitting with baby and using your voice and your presence. And then eventually you want to be able to just pop in, shh, you're fine, I'll be back in a bit, figure out how to go back to sleep. Could you jump down all those rungs just down to the ground when your baby wakes up? You pop in, offer a little reassurance, pop back out. 5 minutes later, do the same thing until she's all the way back to sleep. Absolutely. There are a lot of options. The bottom line, just to wrap this up, because it's getting really long, I would say the only option your baby wants is to nurse and nibble back to sleep. So anything else you offer may come with some crying, but try to realize that the crying is just her way of saying, this feels new, this feels hard, this feels different from what we normally do. And she's right. And that's okay for her to want to say that. You, mom, need to figure out the way that you feel comfortable and can be consistent with communicating back to her. I know this feels new and hard and different for me too, but here's how we're going to work through it. And then it's going to start to get easier. So you can absolutely try to make these changes without drama, but whether that's possible is really up to your baby, and we get who we get. And some babies don't make the changes as easy as we are hoping. So I hope that helps. If you have a question you'd like me to answer, feel free to post it in the comments, email it to me, Erica@beaconfidentparent.com, or visit the website beaconfidentparent.com. If you need help with night weaning or any other sleep struggle, I am here to help you. We'll figure out a way to get there together. Thanks for watching, guys.